Hi, I'm Marge Johnson from Creative Designs in Fort Saskatchewan, Alberta. This is Bev, my cohort in the design making, and she is going to help us teach you guys how to make a little red dress pin. I have 3 different designs for you. We have got, this is the finished one, almost. This is the one I call one braid. As you'll see, we have one braid on her. That's just how I identify her. And 2 braids. We're going to do one just to show you how it works. Before you start, I need you to get a scissors. Doesn't have to be exactly like mine. You're going to want a tweezers. I'll tell you why later. And you can get a bead scooper if you want, but it's just a fancy tool. Okay, Beth's going to make her dress one because it's the simplest. What you're going to get is a blank piece of paper with a dress drawn on it. It's going to be separate from this gray piece. So I want you to tack the paper onto the gray felt. That holds it in place, and that gives you your design without wiggling around and getting misshapen in that. We've already done Bev's, and I've already done mine. So if you can see, there's thread just loosely tightened around the design. Don't sew over the design, because we're going to eventually take this paper off and the thread. The first step would be get your colors, which on this one, Bev needs her gold. She needs her dark red, and she needs her light red. What you'll see her using is just a simple dollar store paint tray. Mine's a little fancier, but I've had it for years and years. I don't even know if you can buy it anymore. But what it does is it's going to keep her beads from flying all over the table and from getting mixed up, creating bead soup, and just make it easier for her. Okay, now we will get started. When you make any design, absolutely anyone, you start always outlining. It keeps your shape, it keeps your design on steady, doesn't wiggle it around or anything, and you're going to get a nice, smooth, even design. I'm going to need the deep red first because we like to have some contrast. You can see that in here. So Bev will start with the first line. And I'm just going to continue this as if I'm starting the first line. So you take your thread, whatever length you're comfortable with. I use this length because I've beaded for over 30 years. You want to tie a knot in it. I just use a twirl around the finger and push it down knot. You can do any kind of knot you want as long as there's a knot on the end. That way your thread is not going to come undone, your beads won't unravel, and you won't be crying because they've fallen apart. Okay, so it's just like simple sewing. If you've ever done sewing, you come up from the bottom, you come through, you're going to come through your design. Now, I've come through my design already, as you can see, and because the design's already there, I'm going back maybe 4 beads, maybe 3, it doesn't matter, and I'm just going to go right through the beads to continue. And you'll probably have to do this a number of times around the outline. So you're going to pull through these 3 beads. And then you'll see that you're connected, you're coming out the right end of the beads, and you're basically ready to go. Again, being a beginner, start with maybe 4 or 5 beads. It's easiest if you keep your beads on the table or the tray instead of putting them, some people take them, put them one at a time on there. That will take you a long time. So just take your needle and kind of scoop up the bead onto it, like that. Push it all the way down so it sits flush, like so. And I will hold my hand on here so you can see. And it looks like it's already on. So when you would gently push it down, so it just gently touches. You don't want it tight and bubbled.
Okay, so I attached 3 beads to my string. I'm pulling it back through to tighten it down to the paper. And then with each bead, you'll want to go back and loop over the string between the beads in order to attach it so it doesn't bubble or shift around on you. It maintains the shape of the dress.
Yeah, and maybe we'll see if the camera can catch this. So you see your line of beads. I'm coming up from the bottom. So there's only 2 beads here that I'm going to look at. Number 1 and 2, I call them. So it's the very first one. I come up beside the split in the middle of 1 and 2, if that makes sense. And then I'm going to go down between the split in the middle of 1 and 2 again on the opposite side of the bead. So what's going to happen is when you pull, it's going to go between bead number 1 and bead number 2. And you're going to do this with all the beads that you've put on, all your loose beads. So now I'm going to come up between bead number 2, come down between bead number 2 on the opposite side, and pull. And just gently enough. You'll see that it straightens the bead out. It doesn't bubble. It doesn't tighten up here. And now I'm going to go through 3, bead number 3 and 2, right? 3 and 2?
Yep, 3 and 2.
Yeah. I never call them 3 and 2, I just bead.
Yeah.
And then over the bead again, through the split, and it's tight again. And my last one is going to be, believe it or not, 4 and 5, because that's where I started. And I know that you guys are going to be as quick as I am, and you'll have your first little tack down. Now you're wondering, okay, now I'm in the middle. Where do I go? So you come up anywhere you want. I usually like to go back about 3 beads from the beginning from here. So I'm going to pull my needle up beside any bead, but now I'm going to go through the beads, like a train through a tunnel, I guess you could say. I don't know if you can see that, but there's going through the beads now, because that's basically what we're doing. We're creating almost a tunnel of beads. So now we can do it again. If we go around a curve, you just put your beads around the curve. You're doing okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll try one more. And then through the magic of electronics, if you still don't get it, you can rewind it over and over. Because that's what I do when I do anything new. I have to look at it. So I've tacked on 4 beads. I use this hand, this finger, it doesn't have to have a fingernail even, to hold down just a little bit, just so it doesn't slide all over. But I put the needle at the very end of the bead. The very last bead, you're going to just tack it down. There it is. Now see, it can go this way, it can go this way. This is why we're going to tack down in between each bead, to keep the shape of your style. And you know what? if it wiggles a bit and you get your pattern looking funny because only you will see it, but you think, oh, it's crooked because I didn't tack that one down right. Not necessarily so. We believe if there's an error, an extra bead that's the wrong color in there, then it was meant to be. If it's an extra colored bead, let's say I accidentally put in a gold one or a light red one instead of the dark red, that's called a spirit bead. And the spirit bead is just saying to you that one of your guardians is watching and is enjoying your work and approving of it. I never go back and change it. I just leave it where it is because that's what I was taught, because it would be an insult to the guardian. And I'm sure I'm OCD, so it used to drive me crazy. But now I just appreciate that there's a guardian there. So now, see how fast that went? You're going to get like that, and then you're going to go. And see, I can't quite make the corner. So I'm going to go through 3 beads straight. Then I'm going to go through the last 2 I missed because I want to make that corner, but I don't want it to be all wonky. I want it to be nice and curved like that. Do you see how the corners went? Are you good?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, imaginary audience, is everyone comfortable with that step? Because then I'm going to leave this like it is, with just the loose thread because I don't really want to cut it off. And I'm going to make a thread. I'm going to show you how to fill in here. So the needle I'm giving you in the kit is a size 11 beading needle. You will see that it is longer than most beading needles. This one's short. This is called the Glover. It's made with a triangle end, so it goes through leather better with the beads. But I wanted to make this easy for you, so I gave you the actual beading needle, which is much longer, and it goes through material just like butter, so it'll be good for you. I don't want anyone discouraged before they get through this. Red is the reason red was chosen, is because red is the only color that the spirits can actually see, and this makes it easier for them to notice that you're out there. A lot of groups are putting up red dresses in the forest, and that it's quite spectacular to see. To see these, and if you've ever had someone that has gone missing or has been murdered, and you don't know much about what's happened, it really hits you in the heart when you see this, because red is so out there, and when you know what red's for, it just is like, bam, this person's never been found. The family doesn't have closure. No one has closure. Where is she? Is she just maybe a runaway? Highly doubt it. They say that there's 18 times more Indigenous women that are murdered or missing in Canada than there are Caucasians. Why is that? It's really sad. Is it just because nobody's caring to look? I don't know. But we need to make people know that this is what's happening and that we need to correct it. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is, on this particular one, you'll see that it's straight across. Again, aesthetically, you can choose how you want to do it. I am choosing to go straight across. You could go down if you want. You could go down at the waist maybe and flow it this way or that way. This is all up to you. But this is the way I'm going to do it. I also threw in some little gold specks, which is your gold beads. And I just put them every 2 just so they're a little uniform, but not. And then I finished it off with more red. So that's up to you again, too. You can do, it doesn't have to be gold. The red goes with anything. So go ahead and pick what you want. But I'm going to go with the gold. So now for the inside, because I wanted the contrast, I'm going to change up the colors. I'm going to use the pale and the gold, or the medium, I guess, red. So you can see what you have to do here. And it's no different, really. It's actually easier and faster doing the inside, in my opinion. When we go to, if you're making the ones that have the braids, it's going to be the exact same thing as what we do in the middle. So when we do the braid, you're going to do the outside, and the only reason I have this here is to show you it's a different color. So this is all the gold in this fat part here, and this is her black braid. So you're going to outline her braid, and then you're going to outline this in gold, and then you're going to do another outline of red because this inner part's red. And then you'll go back and do the whole inner part in red, and then you'll finish off her braid. Again, that's how easy it is. Same with this one. And when you see these, I threw in the kit. These are called bugle beads. They're different sizes. They can come up to 2 inches long, but they're actually, put a couple on the table so you can see them. You can see that they're not little round beads, they're like little spaghettis. So what we're going to do with this one is we're going to put our little spaghettis this way and across. Just again, show you the differences of dresses and that. I don't remember. I think I varied the colors in all the kits, so I'm not quite sure what color you'll get because I just gave you a bunch of different colors just for fun. But no fighting over them. Now Bev has done going across, but she's done it in a different project. So she'll probably get the hang of it much quicker than anyone else. So what we're going to do is we're going to find a starting point. And I'm going to start mine kind of on the curve, so it follows the curve all the way around to the other side. And because the liner's already there, it's going to be easy and it's going to be fast. So what I've done with this one is I went 2 red, 1 gold, 2 red, and 1 gold. That makes 6. Again, if that's too much for you, use less. If it's too short for you, use more. Whatever you're comfortable with. You'll see there's a curve. You kind of go to the end of the curve. I push my finger in to see if it's going to fit nice and not tight, but flush. And if it does, which I find perfect, put your needle in at the end, just like you did your liner. Your outside line. And that's all the inside is, the same exact thing. After about, a half hour, you're going to want to get up. You're going to get a coffee, a water, maybe a snack.
No snack. Makes for sticky business.
Yeah. Put the dogs out maybe because they're driving you crazy, Anything to stretch your legs. Make sure you have good light or you're going to have a headache. I'll tell you that much. If you enjoy beading and you're going to do a lot of it, I would suggest getting one of those little lights that go right over your project.
Yeah.
So again, it's between the beads. Go between bead 1 and 2. Hop over, put it in. Go between bead
3 and 4.
2 and 3.
2 and 3.
No, I'm on 3 and 4. So bead 3 and 4. Pop it back in. So after a while, this repetition is going to become a really pretty design that you won't even see coming until you're done almost. I really think you'll love doing this because of the meaning of what you're making. Everything Creative Designs does has a story with it as to what really happened. Why did we make dream catchers? Why did we have medicine wheels? Why do we have the shields? We don't make anything just for fun. We follow I guess you can call them rules. Hence the reason red for the dresses and that. In a dream catcher has to have a stone and a feather. The stone to keep you grounded, the feather to help you soar. Perfect balance, So again, these will be red and always red. It doesn't matter what shade, as long as you're red, because that's what it's representing. That is what it is meant to be for the representation. That is what the woman who created these started as. The Little Red Dress project was started in 2009, and it's to create awareness, and we really need to push that more. I think you get the hang of it. Like I said, you just follow your curves and whatnot, and then by then it's full. There is no wrong way, there is no right way. Again, just be between the lines, just like you're coloring. Take your time. If you stab yourself, first thing to do is move your hand fast away so you don't get blood on it, because that would be awful. Now you'll see this paper here. If I had lined it all the way, you can take the paper off now. If you're doing this one, don't forget, you can't take the paper off till you get her head on. You've got to outline the braids and the head so you know where it is, so you don't have a misshaped one, because it's very easy to do with beads. So we'll pretend this is off. What I do is I would cut the threads that are here, just like that. Just pull them off, pull them out. And then I would take my scissors and create a hole anywheres, just to get it started. I like using a tweezers. Some people don't. But then I take my tweezers and I start ripping it. And all these big pieces will come off, but you will see that underneath the beads there's little tiny, tiny white pieces. So take your tweezers and just pull them out. It's not going to hurt the beads because you've securely put them on the pattern. So once all the paper's off, you'll see that you have a nice outline of beads. You can work inside. If you need a diagram, keep another one beside you, or the picture or whatever, and just work away, because a lot of people leave the paper on, the whole thing. It's really, really difficult to get out if it's in the middle and it's full of beads, because then that's when you might accidentally grab a thread and pull on your beads and that. The thread that you were given and that I use is an actual beading thread. You can use another thread, but if you go and get one, then get a almost like a thin quilter's thread. You want something strong. You don't want something that's going to fray. Try not to get full cotton. Try to get some polyester in there because it makes it stronger. So you've got the needles and the thread. This here is just called Melton or Stroud. I'm sure you see in the school jackets with the sleeves that are leather, and this part here is Stroud. That's what this is. And it's nice and thick and firm. What we're going to do is we're going to take this piece here, and if Bev finishes before we do, then I'll get her another one.
Yeah, okay.
I have confidence in her. Now this is a brooch pin. I actually thought of something the other day, that if you didn't want to make it into a brooch, you could use your beads or leftover beads, string them, and you could make a necklace out of them, or put it on your lanyard or whatever, as long as you keep it with you. We're going to take this, which is like a stiffer felt, and we're just going to put it on here. Anywhere, it doesn't matter to me because we are actually going to cut around here. And that's probably the scariest part you'll have to do, because when you cut along here, you're very close to the edge of the beads. And you don't want to cut those. If by chance you accidentally snip a bead on the end, make sure you have some glue beside you. White tacky glue, not the kids' glue, but get a white tacky glue that dries clear, or what I've been using lately that I found is the Gorilla Glue. The stronger one that's kind of like that crazy glue. That works like a charm. Get a dab on it right away, and it'll hold the beads from running. Then you can let that dry, and once it's dried, then you can kind of weave back with some thread in through the beads, like I said, like the train through the tunnel, and that will keep it in place rather than you having to do it all over again, because it's not worth doing all over again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of see where the middle is on this. I'm going to feel it on the back here. Once I shut my pin so I don't stab myself. This one here we'll have to put this way because it's slim and I don't think it'll fit this way.
It's a good spring on there.
Well, we know it works, and we know. And these pins here are kind of like lock pins, so we're not going to lose them. You know, they're like, you know, I don't know if you can, I think you can buy them in a fabric store. I buy them wholesale, so I always check to make sure they have a lock on it, because some of them won't. So you got to be careful. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of eyeball it. And I'm going to just carefully hold that. Put this down for a minute. And we're just going to, this one has 3 holes. They all have 3 holes. And I'm going to just get Bev to cut that. Anywhere, so it doesn't matter where. Okay. I'm just going to sew it on. Just if you've sewed a button, then you're cooking with propane. Let's try this one more time. If not, we're going to pretend that I did it. Just because we don't want you to spend an hour watching this saying, I got to watch how I pin. Yeah.
Come on, just poke it through the hole.
Yeah. Make sure your cohort is someone that's nicer.
Just can't satisfy anybody.
Wow. Everyone's going to have fun making these, except I'll get a million emails. Could you put the pin on for me, please?
Is it okay if I use crazy glue? That'd be mine.
Yes, it would
Really?
be.
Can
There, see how I used a shorter thread? Much easier. Now, and I'm not saying you can't use glue, but I would like to see that you used the thread also, if you know what I mean. Like, go ahead, use the glue, keep it stable, because that is part of the problem here for me. It's not sitting stable. But, you know, and if you need glue just to keep it on there, then by all means do it. I'll do one more. So there's only three buttons or three holes. Yeah. So it's not like it's hard. Unless you're me today. So it looks like that when it's done. Just, you know, if you want to put more thread on there, that's fine too. But what this, for me, the red, I would either use a red or a black or something subtle in the back. It's going to hide your threads that you've sewn your beadwork on. My mom always said the goal was to make sure that you had nice and neat work. Now for me, that to me is kind of neat because, and it took years because some people would start here, they'd have a big thread here and another one down here and a knot down there, so that's kind of your goal too, is just be a little more cognizant of being neat. Okay, now I'm going to shut this before I stab myself because this pin has...
Today is your day.
Yes. Oh yes, as with everything the natives do, or I should say indigenous do, is we do everything with good thoughts. Absolutely everything. Because what's in you is your medicine. And you do not want to pass on bad medicine to anyone else. It's just, you don't. It's not right. So make a point of, if you're in a bad mood or you're sick, you got a flu or whatever, don't do it. Just wait, till you're feeling better or you're in the mood for it. I know sometimes we have deadlines and that, but you really have to think of what you're spreading in the world. You spread kindness and happiness, you'll get it back because that'll help the other people have kindness and happiness. And I was always taught, never ever, when you're in a bad mood, do you do anything that should have meaning. And I think it turns your life around, if you think positive. And it helps. And people can see it. People can see that you're an open person, that, they want to get to know you. Okay, now just going to tack this on like we did with the paper, because again, you don't want it to flip around in that. By no means. The very last step will be right after this. Now there's many ways you can finish this off. You can just sew around like I'm going to show you. And what we're basically doing is, if you remember the stitch where we went from one side to the other side of the bead, we're basically going to do something like that, just to hold it neat without you seeing the thread. Otherwise, we could do an edging, and there's many, many different kinds of edging. You might have seen them in beading, where the edging is a little loop, a little loop, a little loop, or it might be a triangle right on the end, It's like finishing off crochet or anything. But for these, because they are dresses and not just a simple medallion or something, we're just going to leave them as is and just edge them nice. I've seen people just make these and not edge them and leave a little bit of the gray showing. I don't like that. I find it incomplete because I want it to look like a dress. Again, everything is ultimately your choice. I'm not one to say you have to do it this way. I do get a little adamant about some things, like, with the 4 directions and that, they have to be, of course, the right way. And the red dress, I think it should be a dress that's red. Hence the name. Okay, so I'm only going to do a little bit because it would take a while. So I guess for me, what I should have said was, I like starting on a straightaway, and I just kind of pick wherever. So you'll see there's a dark red and a light red. is I am going to do exactly like we did before, but in a different direction. So I'm coming up between the beads, and I'm just going back down the same size as one bead. Ow. I didn't hit my cohort that time. So what I did was I just went down one side of one bead, and that's basically tacking the pattern down. You'll see nothing has changed on the outside. So then I'm going to go about 2 beads over, because I like my stitches nice and neat together. So I'm going 2 stitches over, up between the beads, and back down a bead without stabbing myself again. And that's it. So I would be doing this all the way around until I come back to where I started. Once I've done that is where we're going to cut. Okay, when seeing it actually, this part here was probably the quickest part ever, doing this whole lining part. Or I should say, I guess edging, not lining. So you can see, you can't see any thread extra here at all. It still looks like you're edging the last red there. We could have done it so it's got the fancy design, like I said, but not on the dress. And so basically this part, if the whole thing was done, that would be it. Period. You're done, except the scary part would be you would take the scissors and you'd cut right along beside the bead, maybe as wide as your scissor edge. Don't get right close up, ever. You might have to leave just a wee bit. But that's what you're going to do, is you're going to cut really fine close to it, and pray you don't hit a thread. That's the only thing. And the best beader I've seen have done it. You know, with just one little slip where the bead's so fine you can't tell. Because these beads here are number 11s, and there's beads up to number 23, and those would be the smallest. And I can't bead with the 23. My eyes aren't good enough. Yet I've seen my cookums and that do it. I'm like, wow. So I chose 11 for all of you guys for the ease. So hopefully, did you understand that part?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, and she's never done it before. So hopefully you get the gist of this. This one will look like this unless you change your gold. And the reds are fine. And that's how you make a little red dress.